All right, what's good, everybody? Like to welcome you guys to another video on my channel. I am Nelson89. Of course, I'm your host on this channel, LB, or if you want to call me Nelson, that's cool. So I got another tier list video for you guys, and before I begin this, before I begin this video, hope you guys are enjoying the new audio sound. As you can see, I got me a brand new microphone. I got me a Blue Yeti microphone, blackout version. Got it in the mail today. So I wanted to have better audio because the last few videos I've done, audio in there was very crappy. So I finally invested into a new microphone to give you guys a better quality sound. All right, so without further ado, we're gonna get into this tier list video. So today I'm gonna be ranking the albums from one of my favorite hip hop duos, and that's Outkast. Outkast is a Atlanta based hip hop duo. They formed back in the early '90s, and they were one of the biggest and most unique and extraordinary hip hop groups all through the '90s up until like the mid late 2000s. They've been on. I don't know if they've officially broken up or they've been on hiatus since like 2006 or so, but I just wanted to rank their albums, man, because they're one of my favorite hip hop duos of all time. I will rank them in my top five hip hop duos. So I wanted to go ahead and just talk about these classic albums that they have put out over the years. So without further ado, let's get into this tier list and start ranking these albums. All right, so from the get go, we're gonna start with the debut album, which came out in 1994, and that is Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik. And I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put it at A tier. Yeah, I'm gonna put Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music at A tier. Now I gotta be honest, man. Well, there's nothing. I'm not gonna say nothing bad about this album. This is a great debut album from this group. I mean, came out in '94, and they pretty much just pretty much kicked down the doors for the South, man. I mean, they weren't the first hip hop duo or artist from the South to really emerge on this level, but they with this album, they were definitely one of the first that really started to bring the Southern hip hop scene to a more mainstream appeal. And not only that, but they really helped to formulate the Atlanta hip hop scene. Because before Outkast, I mean, you did have a group called the Hard Boys that predated Outkast, and you also had Ghetto Mafia and a few other groups out there, man, that you could say helped develop that Atlanta hip hop scene. But Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music was really the album that really made people take a different look at the Atlanta hip hop scene. Because before Outkast and the other aforementioned groups, Atlanta was pretty much they were mainly just known for booty shaking music, man. Because their sound was heavily influenced by the Miami bass, scene that was happening down in Miami. With Two Live Crew and Luke and all of them. And of course, you had So Def, but they were mainly known for Criss Cross, and they had the Brat, but of course the Brat, she's originally from Chicago, and then they had Escape, which is an R&B group, and that was pretty much it, man. They were signed to LaFace Records, which LaFace Records was mainly known for R&B at that time, but a great debut album. I will say that it's not as experimental or risk taking as the later albums would be, because with this record, I think it's pretty typical for the most part of what was popular in hip hop in 1994. It kind of takes more of a kind of a G Funk vibe, but not that they sound anything like Dr. Dre or Snoop Dogg or what any of the artists out in California were doing at the time. It's a Southern take on G Funk. It's got a more of a soulful, homegrown grit to it. But the biggest hits from this album, you got, of course, Players Ball, which that's one of Cash's most well-known songs. Then the title track, Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music, as well as Get Up, Get Out, and Get Something. Those are the big hits from this album. Then the deeper cuts like My Intro to Let You Know, It Ain't No Thing, Call It a While, which features Goody Mob, Claiming True, A Funky Ride, which is one of my favorites and a huge highlight of the album. Hootie Hoo, Deep, Crumbling Earth. Honestly, this whole entire album is great. It's great. But the only thing is, like I said, it doesn't really take those risks as far as the sound and the subject matter as the next few albums would do. But yeah, it's still a great solid debut from Outkast. And like I said, they helped really put Southern hip hop on the map with this record, and they really shed a different light on the Atlanta hip hop scene, man. So yeah, definitely Southern Playalistic Cadillac music. And hey, all right, so moving forward, we're gonna talk about the second album, and that is ATLiens. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna put that one at S tier automatically. ATLiens, man. Oh, I also have Southern Playalistic Cadillac music too. But yeah, ATLiens, man. This is hands down my favorite Outkast album. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know, anybody that knows me personally, I will tell them automatically. When you get to talking about Outkast, I'm gonna tell you ATLiens is my favorite album. This was actually my introduction into Outkast. Cause when this album came out, when the single ATLiens came out, that was a huge hit. It was a huge hit, man. They played that song consistently on Power 98 back in the day. And I used to see it all the time on the video, all the time on BET. And then the Elevator song came out, which was even a bigger hit. And that song is still continuing to be such an impactful a song in hip hop. So many different artists have interpolated that song in their own music, even to this day, man. But ATLiens, this album right here is still, in my opinion, ahead of its time because it was a huge departure from Southernplayalistic, man, because they changed the sound totally, man. Like the sound on this record is just so futuristic, man, and there's a lot of like dub and trip hop inspired uh influences on this record. And not only that, but Outkast, they decided to take on production duties themselves on this record. This was the first Outkast album where they actually produced some of the songs themselves. They performed their own production team called Earth Tone 3 with their DJ, Mr. DJ. And they actually produced two of the biggest singles on this album, ATLiens and Elevators. Outkast actually produced those songs, and they were huge hits. I mean, don't get me wrong, Organized Noise, they still produced a good number of songs on this record, but they just really did a great job at conceptualizing that whole futuristic sci-fi thing, because the whole inspiration behind this album came from that year at the 95 Source Awards, where I think Cass won Best New Rap Group or Album of the Year. I think it was Best New Rap Group, but they were up against some heavy hitters, man. I think they was up against some New York artists like Smith and Wesson and Mobb Deep, and they won. And when they went up on stage, they got booed because not only that, but it was in the midst of that whole Death Row and Bad Boy beef where Suge Knight got on stage and dissed Puffy. So there was a lot of tension in that place, and nobody was really trying to give them a chance. They went up on stage and got booed, and that's when Dre famously said, the South got something to say. And he was right, because the South been having something to say. We've been having something to say loudly, for 10 plus years now, whether you hate it or love it. But I just really did ATLiens, man. It's just a remarkable album. I think it's the best record they've done, honestly. And that's not to downgrade anything they've done before or after it. It's just that, I don't know, I just feel that there's something special about ATLiens, which is why I hold it in such high regard, man, because it's just a timeless album. Even by today's standards, man, it still does not sound dated. It doesn't sound old school, or it just still sounds remarkable and ahead of its time. So I definitely had to put that at S tier, man. Awesome record. All right, so now we're getting down to the nitty gritty, man. We're going on to the next album, Aquemini, released in 1998. And you know what? I'm gonna put this one at S tier as well. Yeah, Aquemini, 1998. And this was the breakthrough album for Cast, in my opinion. This was the one where they really started to see a lot of mainstream success, because the song Rosa Parks was a huge hit. That was a huge hit. And the title track Aquemini, and then they had the song The Art of Storytelling, which featured Slick Rick, which he actually wasn't. Yeah, Slick Rick. He actually wasn't on the album version though. Yeah, he wasn't on the album version. He was only on the version released as a single. I don't know why they didn't include him on the album version. But again, with this album, Outkast, they took more of a role as producers. They produced a lot more tracks on this album. And again, the sound is elevated, the genre bending is taken to a whole new height. The experimentation is just through the roof on this record, man. Uh so many like kind of P-Funk inspired tracks. I mean, they even got George Clinton on the song Synthesizer, man. And they also started getting respect from New York City at this point, man, because they got a song on here with Raekwon from Wu-Tang Clan, "Schooled on the Barbie," which is a fan favorite, a highlight on this record, man. So many wonderful tracks on here. Spody Odie Dopalicious, which is one of the most interesting tracks on the album. It's this kind of smooth, funky vibe, but on this track, Big Boy and Dre don't even rap. They both of them spit like spoken word verses, man, and it's just so the way that they, man, the whole lingo, man, it's just so southern, man. Like if you ain't from the South, man, you probably wouldn't even really understand that lingo and how they put it down, man. But it's just a great record, man. My only criticism about Aquemini is that even as great as a record as it is, I think when it gets to the song, I would say kind of like track 11, Mamacita, it's not really one of the best songs on the album. And I know a lot of people look at that as like a sore spot on the record. And yeah, a couple of songs like towards the end. I mean, Liberation is a really great song with CeeLo. That's an awesome song. Yeah, like Mamacita is probably like the only sore spot on the record. But that's just one song, so that's really not nothing too bad to gripe about. They definitely pick it up by the time you get to Liberation, and then they end it with Chunky Fire, which Kid Cudi actually did a freestyle of Chunky Fire on his what's that? Dang, what's the name of that? A Man Named Scott, a mixtape. I can't think of the name of that mixtape he did. It was his first mixtape where he blew up. I think it was called A Man Named Scott, or I can't think of the name of that mixtape, but he did a freestyle off of that Chunky Fire, man. He killed it too, man. But just really, really great album. And I like how they kind of respond to their critics on this record, because a lot of people was criticizing Outkast at this time because they had took such a different direction. A lot of people was wanting them to keep up the whole Southern playalistic style on the first record, and they were wanting to be different. They wanted to be weird and not, they just wanted to set themselves apart from the rest of hip hop. And a lot of people were criticizing them, and they respond to a lot of those critics on the second track, which is actually the first official song on the album, called Return of the G, man. But yeah, Aquemini is a superb album as well, man. Even though personally I'm more of a ATLiens guy, I cannot deny the impact that Aquemini has had on hip hop as well, man. And oh yeah, and before I go, the title song Aquemini, Dre's verse, I think his first verse, he talks a lot about like, the Atlanta child murders that happened back in the 70s and early 80s, which is something that he's kind of referenced throughout a lot of his songs. So I guess that's something that really stuck with him, because I guess he was the same age as a lot of those kids that were victims. But I think that was one of the first songs where he really started to really discuss that, which is something he's repeated throughout a lot of his featured verses and stuff. I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, Aquemini, definitely got to put it at S tier on this. On here, man. All right, so let's move forward, man. We're gonna move to Stankonia, man. Stankonia, right here. I think this was the first Outkast album I actually had on CD. Yeah, I think my mom actually bought me this. Well, I know she did because it came out in 2000. I didn't have a job then. But yeah, Stankonia, man. Whoa, man. I can't believe I still got this CD. Not in the best condition though. But anyway, though, yeah, Stankonia. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and put this one at S tier. I'm gonna put it at S tier. And you know why? Because they took the experimentation and they just took it to another level on this record, man. This is where I feel like this album right here is where Cass really cemented their status in hip hop. And not only that, but this was the beginning of them starting to cross over into more pop territory as well, man. They was crossing over in that lane. So we all know the big hit, Miss Jackson. Then of course you had B.O.B. and then you had So Fresh, So Clean. But other than those big songs on here, man, a lot of great uh influences on this record. I mean, you could say like the song like Gasoline Dreams and Explosion, which features Be Real from Cypress Hill. Those songs kind of take a sort of like a rap rock approach in some effects. Now, when I say rap rock, I don't mean like corny rap rock that was real popular in the late 90s and early 2000s, man. They do a really good job at implementing those styles into the music, man. And then there's even some boom bapish type tracks on here like Spaghetti Junction. Spaghetti Junction was, which I think is kind of like a sort of like a boom bapish type track where Big Boy and Dre they just spit fire verses and just kill it, man. And I think the biggest thing though is like when you get to songs like Question. Question was a song it was a solo track from uh André. And it was crazy, man, because it had like this techno inspired beat. Had this techno inspired beat. And he just rips to it really fast. And then you got Toilet Tisha. I don't even know how to describe Toilet Tisha, man. It's like this slow kind of neo soul kind of funk rock track where Dre plays guitar on it and he sings. And then you got Slum Beautiful. Slum Beautiful is like this weird kind of dub inspired kind of trip hop vibe. And then the last song, Stankonia, it's another like kind of slow, kind of neo soul, P Funk inspired track, which features vocals from Sleepy Brown and a spoken word verse from Big Rube of the Dungeon Family. Like they really took like the experimentation to the next level on this record, man. Even the song I'll Call Before I Come, which features Gangsta Boo from 3 6 Mafia, man. That song right there is crazy, man. I don't know how to describe that song, man. It's got this. I don't really. You just have to listen to that song for yourself, man. But Dre's verse is crazy, man, because it's one of the highlights. He doesn't even rap. He sings. He kind of sings the verse. It's like a crooning type of approach that he takes on that song, man. But it's just really cool, man. They really did their thing on Stankonia, man. That's why I had to put it at S tier as well, man. Because I look at ATLiens, Aquemini, and Stankonia. I look at those records as like a trilogy in the Cast discography, man. Because they really was taking their sound to all kinds of heights on during that period, man. I feel like I feel like from 96 to 2000, man, that was sort of like a peak period for Cass when it came to the genre bending and experimentation, man. Okay, so moving forward, we got Speakerboxxx and The Love Below. And you know what, I'm gonna put this at B. Some of y'all might disagree with that, but here's why I'm gonna put that at B. Because in actuality, Speakerboxxx and The Love Below is really not an Outkast album per se. It's really two solo albums packaged together under the Outkast name. So I'm guessing that Big Boy and Dre recorded solo albums during this period, and I don't know if it was the label idea or maybe it was just a smart marketing move on their part, but they decided to like package them together and release it under the Outkast name. But they're different albums. I mean, of course, Big Boy's album is more hip hop. It's more hip hop, and Dre his is more of like a neo soul, pop, funk, and rock approach. I think he only raps on maybe one song on this album. he only raps on one song. The rest of the songs he just sings. But the thing about it is, it still sounds really good. It's still really good material though. That's the thing about it. But of course, the big hits from this album was Hey Ya, which came from Dre's side, and then you had I Love the Way You Move on Big Boy's side. Both of those songs really took off, and by this point, Cass had fully transitioned into like the pop spectrum. Man, I mean, they were getting, they were getting award shows at the big award shows. I think they wanted. I think they might have got a Grammy for this record. I forget, man, because I was still watching award shows, and when they won, I know they won some award at one of the big award shows that year. Because I watched that award show, just to see them win, just to see them win. I remember Dre. I don't know where Big Boy was. I don't know where he was, but Dre was the one that he won. He was the one that got up on stage and accepted the award, and he just said thank you and ran back down. But yeah, it's still a great album, man. Both of these discs are still great in my opinion. But it's really not an Outkast album in my opinion. But you know what? Now that I think about it, I think I'm gonna move Love Below and Speakerboxxx at A tier. Maybe. Yeah, I think. Nah, you know what? Scratch that. Nah. I don't know. Nah, I'm gonna keep it at B. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it at B. Yeah, it just don't feel right to kind of put that right there with Southernplayalistic Cadillac music, man. I don't know, but yeah, I'm just gonna keep it at B tier mainly because it's really not an Outkast album like the four previous records. It's just two solo albums packaged together. And honestly, I want to say that Stankonia is honestly probably the last really official Outkast album. Because when we get to this next album, Idlewild, which I'm gonna just put at C, uh Idlewild was supposed to this was like the soundtrack album to the movie of the same name that came out that year. And that movie was a musical slash film that was based in, like, I think it was like the 1930s or 40s. But Idlewild was a soundtrack album, and yeah, yeah, even though it's released under the Outkast name, it's really a soundtrack. That's how this record flows. This album flows like a soundtrack. Uh and I might be a little bit biased because I mean, think about it. Prince did Graffiti Bridge, which was the same thing. Kind of, it was a soundtrack album, but I don't know. Graffiti Bridge flowed more like an album, in my opinion. To me, Idlewild just flows more like it's a soundtrack album, honestly. So I think there were two singles. I don't know if Hollywood Divorce was a single. I just know it was a fan favorite because Lil Wayne was on that song, and that was like at the height of Wayne when he was dropping on the mixtapes and everything. But I know the two singles that I remember from this album was Morris Brown and Mighty O. Mighty O was the first one that I heard because it came out during the summer. It came out during the summer. I remember I was hanging out with some friends. We were riding around and it came on Power 98, and we all was like, oh man, that new Cass is hot because it sounded like classic Cass because we hadn't heard nothing from them since Speakerboxxx and The Love Below, and that Mighty O came on and it just sounded like that classic Cass. And then Morris Brown came out, which is actually more of a Big Boy solo song. And he had the marching band theme, and that song right there really took off because marching bands still play that song to this day. But I like the way that they blend the whole hip hop with the Delta blues, keeping in line with with the movie. But for the most part, I don't know. To me, there's really not much too. There's too much not memorable from this record, except for the two singles, and then that Hollywood Divorce, was featured Lil Wayne and Snoop Dogg. And I know a lot of people was bigging up Lil Wayne's verse on that song, but honestly, Dre had the best verse on that song. But everybody was riding Wayne's coattail at that point. But yeah, man, this is my list. This is my ranking my Outkast albums, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Yeah, I don't have a physical copy of Idlewild. I might get around to getting a physical copy of Idlewild later on, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this list of not my list, but my ranking of Outkast albums. And check out my other tier list video. I did a tier list video on Meshuggah. Uh, I'll leave a link to that in the description. And as always, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel. And feel free to come in on my channel and check out my other videos. I got a few podcast episodes that I've done as well. But yeah, as always, hope everybody has a blessed day and a blessed week. And as always, love, peace, and music. Peace out.